He's pathetic. That's what my wife said while lying in bed, her hand stroking the neighbor. Right in the apartment I'm still paying rent for. They didn't know I'd come home early. Didn't know I'd heard everything. And they certainly didn't know I'd make them remember that night for the rest of their lives. Chicago, late March. The cold winds off Lake Michigan still hadn't let up, sweeping through the alleys like invisible hands brushing against people's skin. I turned off the car engine, sitting still in the old sedan parked in the lot outside the apartment building. On the passenger seat was a bag of takeout I'd picked up from her favorite Italian place, Madison, and a bouquet of white tulips, the kind she once said made her feel seen. I'd just gotten off work at 4:30 p.m., an unthinkable luxury given my schedule of juggling 2 jobs for the past 4 months. Mornings at the print shop from 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. Nights at the shipping warehouse on the west side of the city from 6 p.m. to midnight. I'd been sleeping less than 5 hours a day, always in a half-awake, half-dreaming daze. But today was our 7th wedding anniversary, and I thought, if not today, then when? I wanted to surprise her. Madison had been working hard on her interior decor shop, even though the revenue still wasn't anything to write home about. I believed in her. I believed that if a man couldn't support the dreams of the woman he loved, what was he worth? I stepped out of the car, carefully holding the flowers and the food container. As I climbed the stairs to the 3rd floor, I was already smiling. In my mind, she'd be shocked to see me home earlier than usual. We'd have dinner, play some of the jazz she loved, clink glasses of red wine, and reminisce about the years gone by. But none of what I imagined happened. The door wasn't locked, just slightly ajar. The first thing I heard wasn't the TV or music. It was Madison's voice, sweet, but this time sliding across my throat like a knife. He's so pathetic. Thinks working overtime makes him a real man. I froze. I don't even have to pretend he's attractive anymore. Glad. I found someone else now. My heart felt like it was being crushed. There was no mistaking that voice. It was Madison. And the other one, deep, familiar enough to make me want to vomit, was Carter, the neighbor from across the hall, the guy who'd sat on my balcony drinking beer with me, who'd once called me a model husband. Madison, Carter chuckled, you could do 10 times better. Trust me, I already have. She smirked. I turned to stone. My hands trembled. The scent of the tulips suddenly made me nauseous. I thought I'd drop everything, scream, smash something. But no. Part of me went numb. Another part turned cold as steel. I quietly pushed the door open, stepped into the kitchen, and set the takeout bag on the counter. The bouquet fell lightly to the side, a few petals dropping to the floor like traces of a funeral no one attended. They didn't hear me. They were sitting close together in the living room. Her hand rested on Carter's arm, her gaze, the one she used to give me, now fixed on that man. Not a word, not a burst of anger. Just a gentle closing of the door, so soft I didn't even hear the click. I walked down the stairs like a shadow, got in the car, started the engine, this time with no idea where I was going. I drove like a madman. Past rows of houses twinkling with lights, through intersections I couldn't remember if I'd stopped at red lights for. My mind held no clear thoughts, just a shattered symphony. Madison's voice, Carter's laugh, her words. I already have. It wasn't just a sentence. It was the scissors that cut every tie between me and the world I thought I lived in. A world where I thought I was loved, valued. A world where my sacrifices, exhaustion, and sleepless nights meant something. I didn't know where I was going anymore. When the gas needle hovered near empty, I realized I was in the South Side, full of cheap motels and 24/7 diners. I pulled into a rundown spot, its neon sign flickering like my heartbeat at that moment. Driftwood Inn, $38 a night, cash up front. I didn't haggle. I don't even remember how I signed my name. With the key to room 117 in hand, I walked down a damp hallway, the smell of bleach mixing with the scent of lives that had slept there before. I stepped into a room barely bigger than my car, a double bed with wrinkled sheets, a rickety wooden table, and a CRT TV with a red standby light glowing. I didn't turn on the lights, just sat on the edge of the bed, silent. My hands still shook. I hadn't turned on my phone since leaving the house. Then it buzzed in my pocket. 15 missed calls. Madison, 3 texts. I'm sorry, can you listen to me? Where are you? Nate, please, I'm begging you. I stared at the screen, my mind blank. Not because I didn't understand, but because I understood too well. She wasn't sorry for what she'd done. She was panicking because I knew. I turned off the phone, tossed it onto the table. Then I cried. Not the loud, fist-pounding wall kind of crying you see in movies. I just sat there, hunched over, face buried in my hands, tears falling naturally, as if each drop was a month I'd spent on a love that wasn't real. I'd worked 2 jobs for 4 months. No weekends, no full nights of sleep, breakfast in the car, dinner at midnight. I didn't hang out, didn't buy myself anything except a new pair of work boots because the old ones had worn through the soles. I did it all so Madison wouldn't have to worry about money, so she could chase her passion. And while I was counting every dime to pay for gas, she was telling another man I was pathetic. While I was grinding through double shifts, she was resting her hand on his arm, calling him someone who really makes her feel like a woman. I laughed, a dry, hollow laugh that disgusted even me. I didn't know if I was laughing out of anger, pain, or because I'd finally seen the truth. The phone lit up again. I didn't turn it on. I pulled out my laptop, the old one Madison once mocked as slow as a turtle, opened the browser, and typed, "How to protect personal assets after discovering a cheating spouse." Google spat out thousands of results. I scrolled through a few links, clicked on a legal forum. One comment stood out. "You need to pull money from the joint account immediately. Don't say anything to her, and get a lawyer ASAP." I jotted it down in my notebook. For the first time in hours, I felt my mind regain some gravity. I couldn't stay down forever. I couldn't win yet, but I needed to survive. I told myself, tomorrow I'll go to the bank. Tomorrow I'll call a lawyer. And then I'll show her that those overtime hours didn't just tire me out. They made me tough, resilient, and awake enough not to be torn apart again. I lay on the bed, exhausted, broken, but for the first time in months, I didn't have to worry about oversleeping a night shift. I just had to worry about tomorrow, starting to take it all back. The next morning, I woke up at 6, no alarm needed. My body was used to being jolted awake after fitful sleep. But this time, no sound of reversing trucks, no factory horns, no Madison calling from the kitchen. "Don't forget your coffee." Just the TV from the next room and the wind whistling through the motel's creaky window. I sat up, my head still foggy, but my hands had purpose. In the old notebook I always carried, I wrote 3 lines. Go to the bank, move money from the joint account, open a new account, unlinked, find a lawyer, document everything. Everything. After showering with water that wasn't quite warm enough and staring at myself in a mirror so cloudy I barely recognized my face, I put on yesterday's clothes, left the motel, and drove straight to the nearest Chase branch. The young teller looked at me with pity, probably because my eyes were bloodshot, my hair a mess, dark circles stark under the fluorescent lights. "I want to open a new account. Separate, unlinked." "Yes, of course. Do you want to transfer money from another account?" "Joint, with my wife. I'm a co-owner." After a brief hesitation, she nodded. I transferred exactly 50% of the balance, over $13,000, into the new account. The rest I left so she could cover rent, utilities, and her shop's expenses if needed. I wasn't cutting her off completely. But I wasn't going to let myself be a chicken-plucked bear in silence either. When it was done, I requested a printout of all transactions from the past 6 months. Every expense Madison had racked up, from spa visits to $300 lingerie at a downtown boutique, laid bare like old wounds exposed to light. When I left the bank, the sun was high. Its rays hit my eyes. I closed them for a few seconds, and for the first time after 2 days of hell, I felt like I could control something. At noon, I sat in the office of a lawyer, Thomas Levitt, who specialized in divorce and asset disputes in Illinois. A balding man with cold eyes and a voice devoid of judgment. I told him everything, every detail, no omissions. When I got to Madison calling me pathetic and admitting she'd found someone else, I didn't cry. I looked him straight in the eye, speaking each word like I was reading a case report. Thomas nodded. I need evidence. Texts, recordings, bank statements, and photos if you have them. In this state, proof of infidelity can affect asset division or alimony claims. I have a recording, and I'll get photos. Are you still living in the shared home? Not right now, but I'm still on the lease. 2 months left. Then you have legal access. Setting up cameras in common areas is perfectly lawful. Just don't invade privacy. Bedrooms and bathrooms are off limits. I nodded. Do you want a divorce or? I paused. I didn't have an answer. But then I remembered standing in the kitchen, the flowers falling to the floor, Madison laughing with Carter like I'd never existed. Yes, but not right away. I want to do it right. And I want her to never forget that day. Thomas raised an eyebrow but didn't press further. That evening, I returned to the apartment when I knew Madison was live streaming a Q&A about interior design on Instagram from her shop. I'd once sat off camera during those streams, holding lights, plugging in her phone. Now I stood alone in the apartment I'd once called home. I brought a set of wall-mounted mini cameras bought from Amazon last year when I was worried about break-ins nearby. I set them up in the kitchen, hallway, and living room, places I needed to capture everything. I found more than I expected. Credit card debt statements hidden in a drawer, overdue payment notices from a wholesale supplier, and an old notebook of Madison's filled with social media engagement strategies, including a line that read, "Evoke emotion. Sometimes sadness, exhaustion from the husband helps boost female followers." I photographed everything, uploaded it straight to Google Drive, shared with Thomas. This apartment, once a sanctuary, now a crime scene. I left before she got back. As I closed the door, I swore that the next time I returned here, I'd bring something Madison never saw coming. Truth, preparation, and exposure. I didn't answer any of Madison's calls. I didn't reply when she texted asking where I was, if I was okay, that it was all a misunderstanding. The misunderstanding she named, I'd heard every word, every laugh, not through walls or cameras, but with my own ears. I didn't post long rants or heartbroken open letters on social media either. I simply vanished. The first person to text me was Rebecca, Lucas's wife, my best friend's wife. Madison says you disappeared. She's worried you'll do something reckless. Are you okay? I replied simply, I'm fine. I need time to think. Thanks. No more, no less. No accusations, no explanations. 3 days later, I got a message from Jade, one of Madison's old friends, a bridesmaid at our wedding. I don't know what's going on between you two, but Madison's telling everyone you're overstressed and took off. She's crying a lot. I wasn't surprised. I knew Madison would do that. She always knew how to steer the crowd's gaze in her favor. She started building the image of the devoted wife abandoned. On Instagram, she posted a photo of 2 plates but 1 empty chair, captioned, "Some dinners will forever lack company." In her stories, she lamented the exhaustion of carrying a one-sided relationship. I laughed, not bitterly, just sadly. She was good. Really good. But what she didn't anticipate was that my silence was more dangerous than speaking out. A week later, I started stirring. I didn't spill details. Only when someone asked directly did I answer. Honestly. No sugarcoating. You okay? Lucas asked. Not really, but at least I can breathe now. Is it true, Madison? He hesitated. Yeah, I heard it all. Saw it all. Between her and Carter? Silence. Then Lucas said, I figured. Someone needed to hear this from you. Not her. I nodded. No need to make a scene. Truth has its own pulse. It doesn't need exaggeration. Just a slow leak, and the world will hear it. 2 weeks after I left the house, Madison started losing control. She texted Lucas, Rebecca, even my parents. I just want to talk, she wrote to my mom. My mom called me, voice trembling. Nathan, I never liked how Madison treated you, but if you need anything, Mom will always be on your side. I nodded silently. That same day, I got a text from Jade. She cried to Ruth, her business partner, all afternoon. But then Ruth started asking about finances and Madison dodged. It's tense. Madison wasn't just losing me, she was starting to lose her network, one person at a time. That weekend, I went to dinner with Lucas and Rebecca, a sort of get Nathan out so he doesn't sink into darkness thing. I didn't object. After nights of eating sandwiches and drinking tap water in the motel, a decent meal felt like a luxury. I didn't plan to talk about Madison, but Rebecca whispered, "She's calling everyone saying you have anxiety issues. That work stress made you lose it and imagine things." I laughed, softly, but enough for Rebecca to wince. "She won't stop," I said, "until I put an end to it myself." Lucas looked at me, serious for once. "And how are you going to do that?" I took a sip of beer, gazing out at the street. The light turned red. Pedestrians jostled toward the train. I answered, "I'll let her dig her own grave with her mouth. And when enough people see it, I'll let the truth speak. No shouting. Just at the right time." Chicago, Wednesday afternoon. I walked into the electronics store where Carter worked, a big chain in the shopping district a few blocks from our apartment. I'd known his schedule for a while. Balcony chats, weekend BBQs, his offhand comments like, "I'm on the morning shift till 5 today." All pieced together like I was drafting a case file. I wasn't there to fight. I didn't need to throw a punch to hurt him, because I knew truth was a weapon that wounds longer than violence. The store was quiet. I waited for him to step out from behind the consultation counter, eyes still glued to the computer screen. He looked up, and the moment our eyes met, I saw it. Pure panic. "Nathan," he grinned, crookedly. "Hey, long time no see. What's up?" "There is," I cut him off, voice low enough that only we could hear. "I know everything. About Madison. About that day." He went pale. Eyes darted around, searching for an anchor. "Whoa, hold on, it's not what you think. We're just friends. And that day, it was a misunderstanding. I have recordings, video, legal camera footage from the house. I'm working with a lawyer, and Illinois law allows infidelity to factor into alimony or asset division." He stepped back half a pace, palms rubbing against his pants, a classic sign of someone unraveling. "I don't want to see you around the building again. I don't want your name in Madison's phone. And if you think you can hide behind just friends, try saying that in court." Silence. Long silence. He couldn't speak, just breathed heavily. I pulled out a sheet of paper, a copy of the separation notice and evidence I'd prepared for the lawyer, folded it, placed it on the counter. "Just so you know, I'm not the pathetic man you thought I was. I'm the one who sacrificed health and youth to support someone who chose to stab me in the back." I looked him dead in the eye. "But from now on, I'm not sacrificing. I'm fighting back." Then I turned, walked out of the store, leaving Carter standing there, face ashen, lips trembling, his shadow stretching long under the fluorescent lights. That night, Lucas texted, "A friend of Jade's said Carter freaked out and texted Madison right after you left. They fought. Big time." I wasn't shocked. Alliances between betrayers rarely last. Not because they lack loyalty to each other, but because they've already been disloyal to someone else. So neither trusts the other to be truly decent. And once the crack starts, the rest is just a matter of time. I returned to the apartment one Saturday afternoon, the sky overcast, a light drizzle falling on the balcony. I knew Madison wasn't home. Lucas had tracked her Instagram for me, where she'd checked in at a breathwork and emotional balance workshop downtown. Ironic, really. While I pieced together the shattered truth, she was learning to inhale guilt away, exhale peace. I opened the door with my old key. I was still on the lease, still paying 50% of this month's rent. I stepped inside, flipped on the lights, the yellow glow quietly spilling over a space that felt impossibly foreign. The apartment, once neat and clean, was now a mess. Fast food containers littered the table, an empty wine glass tipped over next to a laptop still open to Pinterest. The flowers I'd left that day, the white tulips, sat on the kitchen counter, wilted, petals fallen. The water in the vase turned murky brown. It felt like I'd walked into the aftermath of a silent explosion. I checked the camera angles, still working fine. I pulled footage from the day before. Carter was gone. Madison paced around, sometimes slumping to the floor, staring at her phone. One 17-minute clip was just her sitting alone, crying soundlessly. I didn't feel smug. I just felt cold. I opened the drawer of the filing cabinet, what Madison called her mini home office. I found a stack of bills, including one that chilled me to the bone. Credit card debt statement, $12,760. Personal loan confirmation from an online finance app, $8,000. And most damning, a detailed ledger for the company she'd opened under M&M Decor Studio, negative $31,504. I sank to the floor, staring at the numbers like a chasm opening beneath me. For 4 months, I'd worked 17-hour days, eaten ramen, cut every personal expense, while the woman I loved was quietly sinking our future into debt. Worse, she'd never said a word. I photographed every page, every expense, every debt, uploaded them to a private Google Drive folder shared with Thomas. I noted clearly, evidence of hidden debt, unreported during marriage, can be used as a disadvantage in asset division. As I was about to leave, I saw Madison's little notebook, the one she always carried, her daily creative ideas. I hesitated, then opened it. The first page was a sketch of the shop layout. The second, a list of personal branding ideas. And amid the red ink, I saw a bold line in a black marker. Don't let him realize I chose this path long ago. I closed the notebook, put it back exactly where it was. No more, no less. The feeling then wasn't anger, it was a cold acceptance, as if I'd officially signed the divorce papers, in my heart, though the legal process hadn't even started. That night, I called Thomas. I've got proof she's over $30,000 in debt she never told me about. I have loan papers, bills, even her written admission. Does that help? He paused, then said, a lot. In asset division, if there's evidence one party incurred financial burdens without informing the other, the court can apply separate debt liability. Meaning, you won't owe a cent of her debt. I nodded, though he couldn't see. And if you want, those documents can be presented at the upcoming hearing, as part of why the marriage is irreparable. After hanging up, I sprawled out on Lucas's floor, staring at the stained ceiling. Part of me wanted to scream in frustration. Another part felt grateful. Because I'd seen the truth in time before being drowned forever in a fake life. I texted Madison one weeknight. If you really want to talk, meet me at the house this Friday at 7. Dinner, just the two of us. She replied in under a minute. I'll be there. Thank you for giving me a chance. A chance? I smirked. The only chance Madison was about to get was the chance to know what it feels like to be exposed before everyone who'd ever trusted and loved her. I spent 2 days preparing. Lucas helped me arrange chairs. Rebecca assisted with printing expense sheets and tidying the apartment. I hooked up a projector to the TV, prepped a slideshow, short, just 6 slides. Each one a piece of truth, an undeniable slice. The guest list had 9 people. My parents, Madison's parents Lucas and Rebecca Jade, Madison's best friend Ruth, her business partner. And of course me, I told everyone to arrive early, staggered by 5 minutes. No one knew the full story. I just said, I need you all here to witness something. And afterward, you can decide for yourselves where you stand. Friday, 6:15 p.m. Madison's parents, Robert and Cheryl, arrived first. Both looked confused but polite. Her dad shook my hand harder than usual. Her mom glanced around, saying little. 6:20 my parents arrived. Mom gripped my hand tight, like she feared I'd collapse. 6:25, Lucas and Rebecca walked in, then Jade, then Ruth. The small living room suddenly felt crowded. No one spoke loudly, no one laughed. The air felt like the calm before a storm. 7:03 p.m. The doorbell rang. I opened the door. Madison stood there, in the green dress she'd worn in our wedding photos, hair lightly curled, holding a bottle of white wine. I figured, you probably don't have decent wine in the house, she said, still with that half-joking, half-condescending tone I knew so well. I didn't respond, just stepped aside, letting her in. She walked in and froze. Her eyes scanned the faces, family, friends, people who'd once adored her, stood by her. She stiffened. Her gaze shifted from confusion to panic. What? What's this? I stepped forward, voice calm. You said you wanted to talk. So did I, but I think this needs more than just the two of us. I turned on the TV. Slide 1. Joint account statements. My paychecks from 2 jobs, steady every week. Slide 2. Secret credit card spending. Hundreds on high-end lingerie, hotels, expensive wine, on days she had business meetings. Slide 3. Texts between Madison and Carter, her saying, I'm tired of pretending to like him. Slide 4. Video clip from the camera. Carter entering the apartment at 2:13 p.m., a day I was on night shift. Silence. Everyone held their breath. Madison's mom buried her face in her hands. Her dad leaned back, eyes closed. Ruth muttered, Oh my God. I turned to Madison. She was shaking. Face pale, throat dry, like no words could come out. But I wasn't done. Slide 5. Debt report over $30,000 from the company in Madison's name. Slide 6. Notebook page with her scrawled words. Don't let him realize I chose this path long ago. I turned off the TV. I didn't call everyone here to humiliate you, I said slowly. I called them to show you the consequences. Not just for betraying me, but for shattering the trust of everyone in this room. No one spoke. Madison stepped back. 1 step, then 2. She pulled a tissue from her purse, but didn't wipe anything. No tears fell. Just emptiness in her eyes. I walked over, handed her the signed separation papers. You have 48 hours to move out. The court will handle the rest. People left one by one. No one scolded, no one defended. Madison's mom bowed her head, whispering, I'm sorry for my daughter. I was alone in the apartment again, the yellow light spilling over the window where I'd once stood waiting for Madison to come home every night. I didn't feel joy, no satisfaction, just the weight of one shackle lifting. 2 weeks after that reconciliation dinner, the divorce was filed with the court. The day I stood outside the Cook County Courthouse, the sky was overcast, like Chicago knew this was a trial needing no jury. The guilty had long since convicted themselves. Thomas, my lawyer, submitted the file. Clear evidence of infidelity from videos and texts. Joint financial statements plus company debt over $30,000. Witness statements. Confirmation from Jade, Ruth, and even Madison's parents that they'd seen the evidence firsthand at dinner. Madison had nothing to counter. She didn't hire a new lawyer, just a cheap legal rep to avoid a default judgment. No appeal, no claim of emotional distress, no request for compensation. Maybe she knew she had nothing left to stand on. I sat there in the plain courtroom listening to the judge's gavel strike. No alimony entitlement. Each party retains personal assets. Separate debts, not assigned to the other. Divorce granted unilaterally with sufficient grounds of severe breach of trust. 4 sentences. 7 years of marriage ended. I didn't sigh in relief. Didn't cry. I just looked up at the ceiling, feeling my heartbeat settle back into survival mode, no longer fighting. But the truth is, after justice was served, the real emptiness began. Because no one told me that after doing everything right, planning, exposing, reclaiming fairness, I'd still have to face what no one could handle for me. Memories. That night, I sat in the apartment alone. The lease would end in 2 weeks, and then I'd leave it. The place filled with old laughter, sleepless nights over Madison's deadlines, and dinners I ate alone because she was at group meetings. I stepped into the bedroom. The closet was empty on the left, her side. But the right, mine, still carried the faint scent of the fabric softener she'd picked. I pulled a small box from the drawer, old letters she'd written me in our first year together. The first one read, If I ever hurt you by mistake, forgive me. Because it'd never be because I don't love you. I folded it back, didn't burn it, didn't tear it. I put it back in the box, not because I forgave her, but because I didn't want the past destroyed in anger. I needed it there, as a reminder. You went through hell. And you survived. 2 weeks later, I moved out. Lucas helped haul boxes. Rebecca made lasagna, my favorite, which Madison could never get right. This is for a fresh start, she smiled. It doesn't have to be a victory, just a decent beginning. I nodded. Set the last box on the floor of my new place, small, simple, Wi-Fi password known only to me. I opened the window. The wind off Lake Michigan was still cold, but this time, it couldn't blow me away. I once thought, after signing the divorce papers, all emotions would just switch off. They didn't. What remained after everything collapsed wasn't liberation or freedom, but a vast field of ash. I could sleep till noon but woke up in the middle of the night. I could eat at any diner but had no urge to taste anything. Old songs, familiar streets, morning coffee smells, Madison's air freshener, the snap of a beer can, all became memory shards cutting into tiny pieces of me. One day, I found a green hair tie on the floor, stuck between the bed leg and the wood. I sat down, staring at it for half an hour. No crying, no anger, just a emptiness. Lucas knew. He didn't ask. But he came by almost every night, bringing beer, firing up the dumb racing game we used to play in college. You don't have to say anything, he said, but you don't have to be strong all the time either. I nodded. Slowly, I learned to accept my weakness without shame. 2 months after moving out, I ran into Madison at the grocery store. I was at the checkout. She was right behind me. Neither of us spoke for the first few seconds. Neither wanted to be the first to say hi. Finally, she broke the silence. You okay? Fine. I'm going to therapy, learning to face my mistakes. Good for you. Not cold, not warm, just neutral. Like two people who'd once lived in the same book but were now in different chapters. I paid, walked away, didn't look back. For the first time, nothing pulled me to glance behind. Summer came late. Sunlight stretched through the glass of my small new rental, where I'd repainted the walls, hung a few pictures, planted a cactus. I started journaling, not to become a writer, but because I couldn't keep carrying pain without naming it. I hit the gym with Lucas, met some new people. A guy named Jordan, divorced after 10 years, said, "I thought I'd die back then." Turns out, I was just shedding skin. I didn't join Tinder or rush to date. I didn't need someone new to fill the void. I needed to learn to fill it myself. Every morning I brewed coffee, played jazz, watched the cactus by the window grow over time, like me. 6 months after the divorce, I threw a small party on the balcony with Lucas and Rebecca. Simple BBQ, cold beer, laughter that didn't feel forced. "Do you regret anything?" Lucas asked, as we sat watching the city light up. I thought about it, then shook my head. No, not what happened. Just that I didn't see the truth sooner. That night, I sat alone, opening an old email from my dad. He rarely spoke, with the subject. "Son, I'm proud." I read it without tears. Just felt light. Life didn't need to be dazzling after a storm. It just needed to be real. I was no longer the man working 2 jobs to feed a fake dream. I was Nathan, 29, living in a small apartment, learning to love myself bit by bit. And if anyone asked me what my story was, I'd say this: I was betrayed. But the worst part wasn't being cheated on. It was believing I didn't deserve to be loved decently. Now I know, I do, and I'm living to never forget that again.